welcome. This is Jackie Cambridge. Welcome to one of our Take 5 videos where we're just going to take between no more than 5 to 10 minutes just to give you an overview of one particular aspect of health and safety. Hope you enjoy it. So here we go, one of our Take 5 for health and safety. In this particular video, we're going to have a little bit of an overview on the management of health and safety at work regulations. These regulations were introduced in 1992, but we're currently on the 1999 version. They were introduced as part of 6 new regulations as a result of European directives. And even as the UK moves towards Brexit, the Health and Safety Executive and the government have made a commitment that these regulations are still going to remain with us. They're not going to be repealed. So let's have a potted tour of the management of health and safety at work regulations. So the management regs, as we'll call them, they sit directly beneath the Health and Safety at Work Act. They're a set of regulations, so they're legally enforceable. And so we have the Health and Safety at Work Act, the management regulations, and then all of the other regulations that we've got within the UK filter through the management regulations. So the management of health and safety at work regs, they don't cover noise, vibration, or anything like that. They just reinforce the requirement on organisations to manage health and safety. So let's have a quick look at the sort of things that they cover. So let's have a look at the main requirements of the management of health and safety at work regulations. So the first one, which I'm sure none of you have avoided, the requirement to do a suitable and sufficient risk assessment of all of your work undertakings, taking into account routine, non-routine activities, and making sure that you consider the risks to your employees and the risks to others. So a suitable and sufficient risk assessment, not just a risk assessment, suitable and sufficient, depth and detail appropriate to the hazard, taking into account the wide range of risks that your employees face, ensuring that you consider the existing controls and the new controls that you need to implement. And a suitable and sufficient assessment must be completed by a competent person or a group of people with relevant skills, knowledge and experience. It's all very well doing the risk assessment, then we've got to apply the principles of prevention. So if you've got a risk that you can't avoid, we've got to follow some principles of prevention. Can we eliminate it? Can we avoid it? If we can't do that, can we evaluate it? Can we replace the dangerous with the less dangerous? Can we have a whole range of management controls to reduce the risk? Can we do things that reduce the risk to everybody rather than just protect one person? Then, separate from risk assessments, every company is required to have health and safety arrangements to identify, to control, to coordinate, to review their preventative and protective measures. i.e., if you say you're going to do something, what are you doing to make sure that actually works? So this is separate from the health and safety arrangements in your health and safety policy. It adds to them. You may need to provide health surveillance. So health surveillance is when you check your employees' health. So it might be you do an eyesight test, or you take a blood test, or you check the skin, but you're checking to ensure that the hazards and risks that they face at work are not having a detrimental effect on their personal health. So health surveillance. Every company must have adequate named and trained health and safety assistants, and that might be you. You might be part of your company's health and safety assistants. Larger companies are going to have perhaps more than one person. A small company might have one person, or you might even use an external person. But whatever your health and safety assistance arrangements, they must be competent and provided with the resources they need to assist the company in meeting their legal obligations. Every company must have adequate emergency arrangements, and you might need to also liaise with the relevant emergency services. It doesn't tell you what those emergencies are. It's down to you to identify what emergencies might occur for your particular business and what plans and procedures do you need to have in place to make that happen. Information and training is a requirement in the Health and Safety at Work Act, but it's supported in here. Information on the hazards and risks, information on the emergency procedures, training that's relevant to the job, training that's relevant to the level of person as well, refresher training. So these sorts of things are covered by the management of health and safety at work regs. There's a few more in there, but the last one we're going to mention is cooperation and coordination. So if you've got a shared site, or you're using contractors, or you've got temporary staff or agency staff, it's important that we cooperate and coordinate our health and safety arrangements. And that includes taking care of what we call persons working in host employers, i.e. someone working on your premises, but they're not directly your employee. So that could be contractors, that could be the engineer who's repairing your air conditioning system. So with a potted tour there, the management of health and safety at work regulations. And lastly, is a bit wordy, in the management regs, regulation 21. Nothing in the relevant statutory provisions shall operate so as to afford the employer defence in any criminal proceedings for a contravention of an employee or person appointed under Regulation 7. Really clear, isn't it? So all this to remind you, what this is saying is your employer has a duty to comply with health and safety regulations, and criminally, the overriding duty is with them. They can't escape their liability by saying, but the health and safety officer didn't tell me to do this, or the health and safety advisor told me to this, or an employee didn't do something that they should have. The overwhelming responsibility is with the employer. That's not to say that we don't have duties ourselves, but the employer can't escape their obligations by saying, actually, it was someone else, it was an employee that did something wrong. The ultimate responsibility is with the employer. So there we are. We've taken 5 to look at the management of health and safety at work regulations. This is Jackie Cambridge from Cambridge Safety. Thanks very much for watching.